All right, welcome back to the podcast. It's Julien, and today we are tackling a big one, dad fatigue. You know that feeling when you're so tired you could sleep standing up, but your brain won't stop reminding you of the 100 of things you gotta do. Yeah, that one. And I want to preface this real quick. I'm going to talk about dad fatigue, but I do understand that this is very relevant to moms. So some moms might listen to it and be like, well, yep, me too, right? But since I'm a guy, I'm going to talk about dads. All right, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, so the way I was planning on having this episode done is 4 segments. The first one is understanding what dad fatigue is. The second one is the root causes. The third one is signs and symptoms. And the fourth one is coping mechanisms and solutions, right? And then we'll wrap it up at the end, right? So let's get started. So what is dad fatigue, right? So what is that exactly? Well, it's not just about being physically tired, but it's that emotional and mental exhaustion from trying to be everything for everyone, right? Like I've been there many times, staring at my ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering how to keep all the balls in the air. And it's a challenging place. And you have some dads that are there every night trying to figure it out, like how to move forward, you know, especially if you are an entrepreneur, because you're the one having to fundraise the money, having to make the big decisions or tough decisions, right? While at the same time doing the same thing at home. And so that is a very challenging place to be, right? It's that pressure cooker situation where kind of that societal norms and personal expectation collide, right? Like many dads feel they must excel in every role, provider, partner, parent, and somehow squeeze in being themselves too. Like that's a challenging place. And again, I preface at the beginning, yes, moms too. We love you. We know you feel the same, right? But here we will talk about dads today, right? So I remember inside of one of inside of the movement, the dad, the myth, the legend, we're asking dads like, how are you doing? What is the one word feeling that you have about how this week went? And oftentimes what you will see is tired, exhausted, sore, right? Because is like they're pushing so hard. You're pushing so hard during the week that when you get to Friday, Saturday, you're just tired and you just kind of want to like relax for a second and just do nothing, right? But because you're also a dad, you know that it's a hard thing to ask or tell your family, that you kind of want to do nothing, right? That you kind of just want to lay in and watch the game, or, you know, to just be there and do nothing, right? Because you want to recharge. Like it's a hard place, right? And sometimes, you know, I remember this story. One of the guys was saying like how, you know, he wants to make sure that, or he makes sure that every time, you know, when he comes back from work, he has nothing in his hand so he can give the hugs, the kisses, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you just forget or to spend time with his wife, to have those moments of connection with her, right? Because he goes on those crazy shifts. And so when he comes home, he's just trying to make sure that his kids are taken care of. He wants to make sure that the house is good. And sometimes he just runs out of time for his wife, right? And that's a hard one because that reinforces that emotional fatigue, the emotional and mental exhaustion, right? Because you feel like, man, I was trying to do everything and I just like neglected something, right? And maybe your wife is understanding everything and so she is not saying anything. And that's a hard place to be as well, right? Being able to go and ask what you need. See, one of the challenging part with being married is being able to ask your spouse exactly what you need and what you want. And I haven't heard you do the same thing, because she can't read what's happening in your head, and you can read what's happening in her head. So being able to get to this place of sharing exactly what you're thinking, what you're needing, and vice versa, helps in being able to navigate those waters in relationship. Because communication is one of the more challenging thing. Like they say, the biggest issue is when you think that there was communication, right? You thought you communicated something, but you didn't, right? So that is a brief definition of what dad fatigue is. Now let's move on to segment number 2, the root causes. All right, so root causes. All right, well, that is, there's many root causes, but one of the first one is obviously trying to be everything to everyone, right? That is definitely a challenging part in it's something that pushes you to hit dad fatigue, right? This mental, emotional exhaustion that you have, that you just kind of want to do nothing, that you just become, this statue, right? You say nothing, you do nothing, you just stay there, and you kind of just like almost have this out-of-body experience happening, right? Like I've had that many times, and it's almost like you don't want to participate, you don't want to be part of, right? Like it feels like a mountain, right? But we strive to give our families everything, often putting like huge pressure on ourselves. Like I remember thinking, if I just worked a bit harder, a bit longer, it'll all get easier. But we all know that's not true. But you still have men that do. You have men that work from 9 to 9, 9 to 10, like putting crazy number of hours just because they want to get just a little bit ahead, just because they want to provide more for their family, just because they feel that they have to do what others have not done in order to get what others don't have, right? And that's a very challenging place to be. But it's a common trap, right? Like the mindset that contributes to dad fatigue is not just the physical hours of work, but the mental load of constantly planning, worrying, and strategizing for the family's well-being. And especially when you're an entrepreneur, because at every level of your business, the stakes are a little bit higher. And the stakes are not higher is because you're getting complacent. And if you're not growing, then you already know. You're dying. You're contracting, right? You're losing market share. So you consistently are pushing the limit, consistently growing. Sometimes you're losing key people and having to troubleshoot and figure out like what to do, and it's asking more of you. So root causes are obviously the overwork. But the other one is also the neglect. So most men operate in a couple of dimensions. Either it's work, so I'm going to really make sure that I can produce, that means I can bring money home and we can have money and we're protected. And then I'm focused on the family. 2-dimension. That's a 2-dimensional man. Some people are just like 1-dimensional. They feel like, my job is only to provide and protect. So they have a roof on their head, they can do their activities. I'm just going to grind, bring the money. That's my job. That's what I do. And nothing else. 1-dimensional men. 2-dimensional men is someone that will provide, protect, but also make sure that he's there for the activities, make sure that he's there at the dining table, their breakfast, like he's going to do that. But then he neglects what? He neglects his body, his health. He neglects his calling, his purpose, connection with God, because he's just like, I just don't have time right now. I just have to grind. And it's okay to just put my head down. But next thing you know, like your head has been down for 10 years, 7 years. And you're unhappy because you feel like whatever you're doing is not what you're supposed to be doing, but you don't know a different way out. And so that fuels this whole dad fatigue, right? This exhaustion that you have that is mental, physical, emotional. And so that's why dads sedate. That's why now you have people just taking drugs to wake up, drugs to go to sleep, drugs to shoot back up when you feel down. All those stimulants to get your body to act the way you want your body to act, because it's not. Right? Just think about it. That is a hard place to be when you have to take something to go to sleep. You wake up, you have to take something to wake up. And during the day, you have to take something to make sure that your energy level is up. Like, that's insane when you think of it. Right? Like, that's insane. But we've normalized it. We've normalized the fact that this is what is required for us in order to be a dad, be a husband, being the provider and the protector. Right? So the root causes is focusing on some domain of our life and not all domains of our life. Right? We either do business and not family. We do family and business, but not our body. We do our body and work, but we forget about our family and what we're supposed to be doing. We're doing work and calling, but we forget about our body and our family. And it's this constant game. And so being able to have all what I like to call the core 4 domain, body, being, balance, and business, all 4 domain together moving up at the same time. So none of them is neglected, so that you can have power inside of your life in what you're doing. Because it is super easy to start to neglect aspect of your life because the whirlwind of life moves you, right? You see the kids in the morning, maybe you don't see them at night, and you see them every morning. So you're skipping almost 24 hours you're skipping. And you start to see them just growing in front of your eyes. Like, I remember that time where literally I have 6 kids, right? Like right now, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, how old is this one? A 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old, right? This is the age as of right now, but they're all about 2 years apart, except the last one is about 4 years apart. And so I remember, I think it was my second kid. I think it was Adriana. I remember just back when I was not an entrepreneur yet, I was working at 9 to 5, 10 to 6, 11 to 7, right? That was a different shift. And I would wake up early to work out, 4:45, 5, something like that, to work out. And then boom, I will eat. I will probably see her a little bit, or sometimes she'll be sleeping. And then boom, I will leave and I'll come back. And sometimes I will also teach higher education. So I'll have another job. And so I'll come back. And so I would only see her really maybe, I'll say maybe an hour, 2 hours max, right? But I was having those moments of almost seeing her skip, almost like life was accelerating, right? Have you been there? When you're looking at your kids and you are I can actually see you grow because I'm not seeing you for a long period of time. I'm just catching, boom, close my eyes, wake up, wow, you're older, boom, wow, right? You keep on having those flash of, and I remember just feeling sad, and I'm not the sad type. So that was just a very weird feeling and emotion that I had, which was I was feeling sad to see that I was not there, to see that I was just literally missing moments in their life. And it was just flashing in front of my eyes, really fast. And so that was just a crazy moment. And at the time, obviously I was focusing on producing, focusing on health, and then not so much on calling and on family, right? I was at 2-dimensional. Business, health, neglecting family, neglecting what I'm supposed to do because I was just thinking of, I need to bring money, right? And you can see that a lot of men experience that. I remember one that I talked to, and he was like, yeah, I just came back from vacation and, oh man, just, and I'm like, yeah, going back to the mundane, right? He's like, yeah, the boring, and I'm like, well, why won't you do something about it? And he's like, well, I just, I don't know that I can take the risk. I was like, hey, trust me, I know a lot about risk. I have 6 kids. And, now we have 3 businesses, and it's a constant game of expansion and risk and, your risk tolerance and your financial pressure tolerance and all that, right? So imagine me doing it with 6 kids and you doing it with 3, right? He was just like, wow, yeah, and then the thing that I understood is that at every level there is a different pressure that you have. Like, it hasn't changed, right? Whether you make $40,000, $150,000, $250,000, whether you have it's like a $250,000 business or $1 million business or $10 million business, there's a different level of pressure, but there's pressure at every level that you have, right? Because at every level, the mistakes are costly. More costly. Is that a word? Costlier? I'm gonna say more costly. Cost more, right? They're bigger. I remember when we're in the range of $250,000. It was like, okay, little mistakes is maybe $100, $50, $100. Then when we crossed the 7 figures, then it became like little mistakes is like 10,000, 60,000 that you have to solve. Like, much bigger mistake. And obviously there's more money coming in, but the mistakes are bigger. So the risks are almost the same, but it's just bigger issues and you become bigger. So let's move on to segment number 3, signs and symptoms. All right, so segment number 3, signs and symptoms. Well, sneaks up on you, right? Like, one day you're fine, the next you're just snapping at small things or zoning out when your kids, showing you their latest drawing or talking about, what happened in school or basketball practice or a dance, right? Like, it hit me hard when my kid asked, like, why are you mad? Why are you so grumpy? Why are you mad? Right? It was kind of this get out of autopilot moment, right? But it's those moments that really spotlight the symptoms: withdrawal, irritability, feeling disconnected, loneliness, right? They are all signs of dad fatigue. And recognizing them is the first step towards making a change. Because once you get hit by dad fatigue, you can also call that burnout, it is kind of, I'm not going to say too late, but you've kind of crossed the line that you need to turn things around like pretty fast. It's almost like the best example I can give is when you exercise a muscle, okay? So you exercise a muscle, what starts to happen is like you start to build acid lactic, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's like 10 pounds or 15 pounds, the more reps you do, the more like you start to bring blood in your muscle, acid lactic in there, and eventually you're going to go to failure. And it's harder to keep doing reps when you crossed failure than it is to just do 5, right? 5 reps, couple second rest. 5 reps, couple second rest. Or whenever you teach somebody pull-ups, to be like 1 pull-up, rest. 1 pull-up, rest. 1 pull-up, rest. Because their grip is still good, right? Their forearm is still good. But if you go and you say, I need you to do 10, and they're struggling, and it's like the number 8 is really hard, 9 is like bad form, 10 is almost non-existent. You ask them to, okay, do 5 more. They're done. They crossed the line, right? Their body does not recuperate as fast as if you move that line close to red, but you don't pass red. You just right there, every single time. So being able to get those signs, which is, I always say that God has this beautiful thing about having our kids be our teachers, right? You'll have 1 or 2 kids or just maybe just one, or just really you feel like, man, what you say annoys me, right? It is because it hits home, like it hits a chord inside of your being that is making you just, that is just like triggering you, but it's because they're teaching you, because it's something that you needed to do. And so whenever you have those moments, it's the time to get off autopilot. Dad, why are you so grumpy? Why are you always so grumpy? Boom, get off autopilot and recognize, I think I'm in the red, or I'm about to hit the red. What am I doing? Am I withdrawing? Obviously, like I'm getting, like noise level is irritating me, or I feel disconnected. For me, like I know whenever I'm hitting this line, and Mallory will always, she will feel the energy change, which is I get my irritability is really high. My noise level, my sensitivity to noise level is really high, right? Like because our house with 6 kids, there's just a lot of noise. But when you get to the level where the noise might be the same, but somehow it doesn't hit the same at that moment. This is when I know that like, I'm on that line where I can cross it. And then just like when your muscle hits failure, it's going to take you much longer to recuperate. Or I can fully just bring it down, right? And so in those moments is really where I know like, and she knows that too. Now we got better at being able to understand that. Then I can go in and I can actually bring it back down. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment. So hope you're still with me. Let's move on to segment number 4, coping mechanism and solutions. All right. Okay. So coping mechanisms and solutions. I'm sure that talking about all the signs and symptoms, you're like, okay, so how? What do I do? How do I get out of this dad fatigue or not hit it? Or if I'm close to the line, like, what the heck do I do? Right? So let's talk about some strategies for managing the dad fatigue, right? Because it really is. Like I said, it's like the pull up, right? Singles, or 5, or, you think even of a car, right? If you just accelerate and don't allow it to come back, eventually you're going to burn your engine, right? It's going to go and you're going to destroy it. Never done it, but I'm sure if you do, if you stay in the red too long, that's the reason it's red, you will destroy your engine. And the same thing for you, right? So speaking of change, let's talk about solutions. So for me, setting boundaries as an entrepreneur at work was a game changer. And it's still something that to some extent I struggle with because our kids are getting older, older, and it's a lot of different age group, and we're consistently expanding and growing. That finding that rhythm is important, but also challenging, right? And honestly, admitting I needed help was important, right? Like admitting I needed help with, to Mallory, like, hey, I'm just having a hard time just like focus and doing the time block and focusing, right? That was a challenging thing because I know that sometimes I would just either go too hard in the morning or too hard at night. And it just, I would be so in my head that I would forget that, hey, you also have a family. You also have like time with her. And, she's going to be gone this weekend and you didn't think about that. So one of the first things to do is just, start to schedule me time. Instead of the guys that I work with, coaching clients, we talk about core 4, right? Briefly at the beginning of the episode, I talked about it. So core 4 is body, being, balance, and business. Body is your health, your nutrition, and what you're eating. Nutrition and physical activities, two aspects, right? What we do is like we gamify it. So we give a point system. The goal is to get to 28 at the end of the week. Every day you have a potential of making 4 points. So having 4 points. It's broken down into 4 categories: body, being, balance, and business. For body, we have fitness, which is exercising. Doing something physical that makes you sweat, you get half a point. Then something intentional, something for your body, like a green drink. I do AG1 or Vibrant Health, half a point. That gives you 1 point for body. Then we're looking at being. Now, being is your connection to the divine, your connection to God, right? And the way we're breaking it down is, for this one is we do half a point for meditation, so giving yourself time to meditate. I do 7 to 10 minutes. You can do more, but for me that works. Now I do mantra meditation, which is repeating something, over and over again. I have 8 things that I say in about the 7-10 minutes with meditation music. That gives you half a point, because meditation is a time, especially for dads that do so much. It's a time for you to be, to relax and to be in the moment, to be there, and let all the thoughts go through, all the feelings go through, almost like clouds. And it's such a hard thing to do because we're such doers, right? And whenever we sit there, we're like, man, I should I should be doing something better than just sitting my butt down here and then just meditating, right? It feels like this is what the lazy people do. But the crazy thing about meditation is that it creates capacity for you. It also allows you to think better because you've allowed like your mind to just close every loop that's been open and then just let it process, right? And sometimes you also get revelation. And sometimes you're allowing yourself, because you're quiet your mind, you're deciding to pause, you allow yourself to connect to God because you can hear his voice better when things are calm. So you do that, half a point. The next one is what I call memoir. So memoir is journaling. But the way we journal, we use what's called a stack. The stack is this process where we pause, right? We intentionally pause. Then we submit to the fact about the situation. And then from there, we go and we struggle with how we got to where we at, right? Knowing that we can reframe the story. Because there's a couple of things that happen. You always have the opportunity to do a couple of things, right? You have the opportunity to decide in any situation. You decide what you're going to focus on. So you focus. You decide what it is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the end? Is it the beginning? You decide. And then from there, you give it a meaning. What is the meaning? What does this mean? Do I suck? Is it just a rough season? Like, what is the meaning? And you decide that. People might try to give you a meaning to whatever the situation is, but at the end of the day, you decide what the meaning is to something. And then finally, what are you going to do about it? What's your focus? What's your meaning? What's the action that you're going to do? Right? So that's the struggle part, reframing the story. And then finally, strike, action. We don't just stay in our head. We actually do something. What is the actionable item that we can have that we can move forward? Right? So that is what we use instead of memoir, using this process called a stack. Okay? And if you want to know more about the stack, just reach out to me on Instagram at Julien Inspires or the website julienmarion.org. All right. So then we move to balance. So balance is kind of in two. The first one, person number one, which is your spouse. So this is a daily deposit. Daily deposit without asking anything in return. It's not a transactional thing. I don't do this so we can have sex. No, it's a daily deposit. I'm just giving you something. I'm just depositing into your cup. Daily. Singles. No home runs. Singles. And how do you do that? Well, it can be like letting her sleep a little bit longer. It can be making her breakfast. It can be making her coffee. It can be bringing her flowers. It can be writing a little note that, hey, I love you. It can be just cleaning her car. It's just singles. Small appreciation to your wife. All right? Every day. Small appreciation to your wife. And then person number two, this is your kids. Right? In my case, like I would just like rotate. I would not just do everybody every day. I would just rotate. Right? It's a quick little message. Hey, love you. Hey, great job being a big brother. Hey, great job being a big sister. Hey, I love your dedication. Hey, I love how you do this. Hey, good job. Or getting them like ice cream. Hey, guys, I just wanted to reward you with ice cream today. Like, it's just singles again. Just depositing into their cup to make sure their cup is full, because sometimes whenever you're focusing so much on business, you don't remember the last time that you actually deposited into your kids, right? Because hearing them is not depositing in your kids. It's just hearing them. Okay, maybe it is. But when it's not intentional, it's not. Okay, so half a point for your wife, half a point for your kids, 1 point for balance. And then finally, the last one is business, right? The money production. So this is learning something new about business, about the field that you're in. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. So that means for me, there's a lot of things that I can learn, right? The leadership, sales, marketing, advertising, copy, interviewing, persuading. I mean, there's a gazillion things, right? For you, it might be less. It might be just a few things. But the goal here is starting with a specific direction. So let's say right now, I am working on authority building, right? So I'm reading the book Expert Secret by Russell Brunson. That is the book that I'm reading. So what will happen is I will read the book and this is the weirdest part because it can make some people like frustrated, right? Especially achievers. I'm going to read it. As soon as I get a revelation, I stop. I don't continue to read. So that means I can read like 2 pages. Oh my gosh, I get an aha moment. You know, you have those moments when you read a book or you listen to a book and you get an aha moment and you keep on listening. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll come back to it. No, you just oftentimes don't come back to it. So here's like you stop, you pause right away. That's your discover. Ooh, something came up. Wow, that's just pivoting something in my head. I had an aha moment. Now that's the discover. Now the declare is I'm actually grabbing this discovery. And remember we talked about the stack? I'm doing a stack on it. Now, instead of this stack, we call this a discovery stack. It's a little bit different. I'm looking at what did I learn from this? So what did I learn from this? As soon as I have it, I'm writing what I learned from it. And then you guessed it. What is the action item? What do I do next? In what domain? Because sometimes we might be studying something for business, but we get a revelation for balance, or we get a revelation for our calling, or we get a revelation for our body, right? So we get the revelation, the insight, and then we're applying it to one of the domains: body, being, balance, or business. And that allows us, and we get, half a point, boom, gives you 1 point for business, total 4 points. And we do that every day. And what that does is it makes sure that you don't have any neglect. No neglect inside of your life. So that I'm not just so focused on business, but not on my relationship with my kids. We'll focus on my relationship with my kids and business, but really do nothing for my body. And I'm gaining a bunch of weight. And then eventually I crash because my body can't keep up with the life that I have. And I cannot produce, and my confidence level is decreasing every time. That's why I don't even want to see myself with my shirt off. That place. Right? So making sure that we're focusing on all that core 4 every single day, so no aspect of our life is neglected, and gamifying it so that we can make sure that we can actually, track it. Because if you don't track something, you're not going to do it. And I promise you, the people are like, yo, no, I do. It's like, no, when you track, you get a result. When you don't track, you don't get a result. And also the tracking allows you to see where is there a gap? Where am I hiding? I remember for the longest part, and it sounds so stupid to say out loud, but for the longest part, the most challenging thing I had was to do a daily deposit in my kid. How crazy is that? It was. I think it's because they were annoying me. I was just so annoyed. I was just so annoyed about some of the stupid stuff they were doing. I was just like, I just don't want to say anything. I don't want to give them anything. They're annoying, so annoying. Right? And it was crazy to me because obviously the more you do that, the bigger of a gap you're having, and they can feel that energy. Right? So being able to notice, Julien, you haven't done a daily deposit in your kids. You haven't hit 28. Why have you not hit 28? Oh, wow. On this day, you didn't do this. What it does, it allows you to see where there's a gap. Or maybe it's oh man, you haven't done body in a while. You start to see man, I'm getting off balance because I'm not focusing on my health and my body. And eventually, guess what? The rent is going to be due. Yes, it is. And it's going to be double. Because you don't take care of your body is still going to ask for it. And it's going to cost you more. And you might cross that line that we talked about, that red line, and you might never be able to come back from it. So it's important to be able to understand that part. So by us focusing on the core 4, it gives us power to be able to move forward each and every day, right? And so that's what we do with our coaching clients to be able to move forward using the app. And it's an easy process, but allows you to stay consistent and to keep on moving and not having any neglect. Because that's an important word, any neglect inside of your life, right? So let's move on to conclusion and call to action. Let's go. All right, so just want to quickly summarize. So we talked about what dad fatigue is, right? It's not just about being physically tired. It's that emotional and mental exhaustion, right? From trying to be everything to everyone. Then we talked about the root causes of it, right? One is obviously societal pressure, juggling between work, family, and obviously like yourself, like having time for yourself. We talked about the signs and symptoms, right? Being able to get to this place of withdrawal from social activities, irritability, feeling disconnected, hiding, hiding from just sharing, just being so in your head, right? Almost like a statue right there, and you say nothing. And we talked about how, you can have some of those signs that can get you out of autopilot. I promise you, oftentimes your kids will be the one that will say something that you get this moment, and you were actually there. You had that line between being fully inside of burnout, right? But you hadn't crossed it yet. Right? It might be something like, Daddy, why are you always so grumpy? Like that moment that I can come back. Then we talked about coping mechanisms and solutions, right? We talked about core 4 as one that, we use oftentimes with our clients: body, being, balance, and business, using instead of the app so that you can track it. Because what you can track, you can actually solve, and you can see progress and results. Where if you don't track something, guess what? It's not a focus for you. Because remember how the saying goes, right? What you focus on is what your energy is going to go. Or energy goes, focus goes. Where focus goes, energy flows. Any one of those amazing little sentences about energy and focus. So we talked about that. And, I just want to remind you, if you're a dad or a mom, because I know that all of those points, obviously apply to mommies as well, and we love them, right? It's like you're not alone. Dad fatigue, mom fatigue is real, right? And it's not invisible. Being able to get to a place of releasing it, meaning coming in and sharing how you feel about different things, right? That's one of the reasons we started our free Facebook group, The Dad, The Myth, The Legend. The whole purpose behind it is to be able to give a safe place, a safe container for dads, entrepreneur dads, or even, dads that just work 9 to 5, 6 to 7, 7 to 11, to be able to come in and share what's going on, what's happening, with no judgment, to be able to vent, right? Because that can lighten the load. So if that's you there, hit us up. Find us on Facebook, The Dad, The Myth, The Legend, right? We can share your journey. There's some amazing stories inside the groups. People that went through some dark stuff and came out of it, and now they just got opportunities. Or some that because they surrendered, right? Surrendered to God, that their connection with their spouse got better, and then their kids decided to get baptized, and just crazy stuff, right? You're not alone. I know sometimes it can feel like you are, but you've never been alone, right? God is always there. God always connects you with the right people at the right time. That's always been my frame. God will connect me with the right people at the right time. It's my job to go and act on it, grow those relationships. I don't know when or where you heard this episode, and if you went all the way to the end, but when something hits you, when words just hit your heart, your soul, your gut, and you that spoke to me. Just the fact that you had this episode and you listened to it, it's not, it's not something to think about as just happened. No, I want you to think that it was meant to happen for you. You were meant to be here now. And you were meant to listen to my voice. There's millions of voices out there, but you're meant to listen to this voice right here, right now, today. And so now it's your job to be able to act on it, right? It's okay to not be okay. And taking a step to recognize and address dad fatigue is not just a win for you, but for your entire family. So stay strong, dads and moms. And I'll see you on the next episode. Love you. Have a great day. And remember to release it. Be seen. Don't hide. Peace out. Hey, it's Julien. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know how you like this format. It's a little bit more structured than a free flow type of episode. But I would love to know if you love this format. Reach out, let us know. If you're watching on Spotify or listening to it on Spotify, you should be able to actually give feedback directly on the Spotify app. But if not, find me. Go on Instagram, Instagram.com, Julien Inspires, one word. Julien is with an E, not an A. It's the French Julien. Julien Inspires, and send me a DM. Let's chat. Or find me on the website, julienmarion.org, and send me a message on there. All right? But hope to see you on the next episode. And if you've loved this episode and others, make sure to leave us a review anywhere you listen to the podcast. See you soon. Peace.